After being initially discharged from the hospital following his fight against Gabriel Santos at UFC 312 over the weekend, Jack Jenkins' team was later informed that a crucial detail had been overlooked in the initial scan review. As a result, he was quickly readmitted and remains in the ICU. Australia MMA says the injury occurred late in the first round when Jenkins suffered a fracture to his thyroid cartilage, causing an air leak into his chest and neck. Following the round, he experienced numbness and a loss of strength in his left arm. Jenkins is currently under medical supervision, but his condition continues to improve.
Macy Barber accepted her next fight. It won't be Grasso because Grasso's injured. It won't be Manon Fiorot because she's fighting for the title next. It could be Erin Blanchfield. That fight makes sense. They're right beside each other in the rankings. Or it could be Natalia Silva, who's right behind her in the rankings. Brendan Schaub says one of the fights the GFL is looking to do is Tony Ferguson versus Dylan Danis. Dylan Danis is boxing KSI in March, and the GFL starts in April. Dustin Poirier has one more fight left in him. In the summer of New Orleans is what he's looking to do.
We're calling it. Likely here in New Orleans, likely hopefully this year. Where are we at so far with that?
Me and the UFC been working on this, and I was worried when I first came to them with the idea that I want to retire at home in Louisiana that they would be against it, but surprisingly they were down for it to push forward and try to make it happen for me. And I think we're close. I think this summer we could have a fight here in New Orleans.
And who would it be against? There's a lot of talk that it might be Patty Pimlet or somebody. Who's it going to be?
It's 100% not Patty Pimlet.
Okay.
Legends only. I'm not going to retire fighting Patty Pimlet.
In the past, there was some talk that Justin Gaethje could be a final fight for Dustin Poirier since they're 1-1 against each other. Gaethje is fighting Dan Hooker next month if he comes away unscathed. Maybe he has a possibility for Poirier's final fight. Max Holloway is also another possible opponent. They fought a couple times in the past, once at 145, once at 155, and Max is planning a permanent move to 155. And Max definitely fits into the legend category that Poirier was talking about. Holloway did not bad when they fought at 155, but he was a little bit undersized, and the shots he was getting hit with definitely made a big impact. Maybe this time around, if they fight, he'll have grown more into the weight class. In Poirier's opinion, Holloway, Gaethje, Hooker, and Nate are all possibilities.
Me and Gaethje are 1-1. I would love to do the last fight with him in Louisiana.
Oh.
Our first fight was in his backyard. Our second fight was in neutral ground. The third one, let's do it in my backyard.
That would be sick. You versus Hooker would be sick too. That first fight was incredible.
Yeah, for sure, man.
You versus Diaz is still the one I want to see. I don't know if I feel like.
I'll do that one. I'll do that one in Louisiana.
That would be incredible.
Get Diaz in the UFC, and I'll meet him at 170.
170 is a good option, and Nate Diaz is no stranger to fighting in New Orleans. Choking out not Logan Paul in 2023. Diaz faced a civil lawsuit related to that, and in December, Diaz was charged with battery after an altercation with a security guard at Omnia in Caesars Palace in Vegas. The incident involved Diaz allegedly striking a Vegas nightclub employee, leading to a misdemeanor battery case against them.
The announce gate for UFC 312 in Sydney was $7,687,317. The second pay-per-view the UFC has done in Sydney under their $16 million deal with New South Wales government to host 3 pay-per-view events in Sydney over 4 years. This move aims to boost the local economy by attracting tourists, though it has stirred controversy due to the use of public funds. But Chris Minns, the Premier of New South Wales, has an answer for those critics.
I understand people want us to walk away from our deal with the UFC, but we're not going to. And the reason is because we spend about $70 million a year on art, installations, classical music, the ballet, and I'm not knocking that. I think that that's important for a city like Sydney. The point I'd make is that there's millions of people that live in Sydney that don't have a big interest in those classical arts, but do like mixed martial arts. And I think it's reasonable that we would say, well, for all those taxpayers, there should be something available for them as well. And as you saw yesterday, a packed arena, huge interest, not to mention the massive economic pull for the city. The dollars invested in UFC are far better investments in terms of your return than pretty much anything else we can put money into.
The first event under the 3-card deal with Sydney was UFC 293 in September 2023. Sean Strickland happened to headline both of those cards.
AJ Cunningham versus Young Yu, March 15th at the UFC Apex Fight Night card. Cunningham dropping down to 135 for this fight.
Life update, that life is still good. मैं safe हूँ, healthy हूँ, मेरे parents safe हैं, healthy है, इससे ज़्यादा क्या चाहिए? बाकी मैं सिडनी की बारिश enjoy कर रहा हूँ. और जो लोग मेरे लिए negative बोल रहे हैं, और उन्हें लग रहा है कि मुझे affect करेगा, I have the bulletproof mind. I'm the one who is fighting at the highest level. I made it to the UFC, made my parents proud, made my country proud. बाकी सब खुश रहो, सेफ रहो. रात है तो उसकी सुबह होगी. और बाकी रब रखा. God gives their hardest battles to their bravest soldiers.
Sean Strickland takes his opponents into deep waters. Never should have had Bryce on the Jackson pod. They tried to shush Bryce and talk to him like a child. The moment they got heat for it, they took the video down. Bear's a funny guy. I don't know why they lectured Bryce on air. Should have left it behind the scenes or not invited him at all.
Jared Killa Gorilla Cannonier going up against Gregory Robocop Rodriguez. Main event, UFC Vegas 102.
Well, right off the bat, you've got these two guys kind of coming from opposite directions, you know.
Yeah.
Cannonier, he's the veteran, ranked number 8 in the division. But coming off a couple of losses, tough ones. Then you got Rodriguez, unranked, but on fire right now.
For an unranked fighter like Rodriguez, what do you think? What's the UFC seeing in him?
Well, those finishes, right? 5 out of his last 6 wins. Dude just knows how to end fights. It's exciting. But, and this is a big but, he's been knocked out cold a couple of times. And not always by these, like, huge bombs. So the question is, can he take Cannonier's power, you know?
Yeah, Bruno Ferreira, Jordan Williams. Those knockouts, they definitely get people talking about that chin, don't they? And then you look at Cannonier, 40 years old. Some people are saying maybe he's done.
But to write him off, I think that's a mistake. Remember, he just went the distance with Barallo, a tough, rising fighter. Even won 2 rounds on one judge's card.
Right, and not long ago, that Vettori fight. Arguably his best performance ever, right? So maybe just a rough patch for a guy who's still got it.
Yeah, maybe. But one thing to remember about Cannonier's style, it makes him a little vulnerable to uppercuts. Strickland, Barallo, they both caught him with those. He drops that lead hand when he throws that big right, and that's an opening.
Interesting. So Rodriguez, if he can exploit that, could be a problem for Cannonier. But then again, if Cannonier keeps him at range, uses that jab, those leg kicks, could be a different story, right? Right. So we're looking at this clash of styles. Cannonier, the power, the precision, and Rodriguez, just this relentless pressure, always looking for the finish.
Cannonier, though, he's got that kickboxing, boxing background. He's a little more patient, technical, picks his shots. Rodriguez, on the other hand, he's a brawler, you know. Likes to get in your face, pressure you against the cage, just unleash those flurries. Yeah, tough to imagine it going to the judges. Both guys, finishers, aggressive styles. Somebody's probably going to find a way to end it early.
That Strickland fight. What can Cannonier learn from that fight? Apply it here.
That Strickland fight, yeah. I think the big takeaway for Cannonier, head movement, hand position, got to be better there, be more elusive, tighten up that defense, avoid those uppercuts.
Yeah.
For Cannonier, I mean, if he beats a guy like Rodriguez, up-and-comer, it's a statement, right?
Yeah.
Shows he's still a top contender.
But if he loses, and especially if it's, a bad loss, at 40, that could be it.
But for Rodriguez, man, if he wins this, beating a veteran like Cannonier, that's huge. Shoots him right up the rankings, makes him a contender for sure. Maybe even a top 5 opponent next. Who knows?